The Trump administration's immigration raids are driving a surge in the number of migrants being held in the southern United States. A new figure has shown they've quadrupled. NBC's Morgan Radford has new reporting on how different states are turning to private companies and new facilities to manage the influx.
This is Adams County Correctional Center in Mississippi, a private prison now contracted to Immigration and Customs Enforcement. It's one of more than a dozen such facilities in Louisiana and Mississippi, now holding more than 8,000 ICE detainees, according to new data shared by ICE with NBC News. That number has almost quadrupled in just over a year, making it the largest population of ICE detainees now outside of Texas.
Now, this is a fight the administration wants to have. Top officials, as you may have heard, claiming the Statue of Liberty poem should be rewritten and that it only referred to Europeans. Meanwhile, advocates fighting back. 13 states now suing Trump over this new rule targeting immigration by poorer people, and those suits can matter. Trump has seen several immigration plans narrowed or blocked in the courts, from the first travel ban to sanctuary cities policy to this new rebuke today, a federal court ruling that basics like soap and sleep are indeed necessary for migrant safety, and that Trump officials were wrong to claim otherwise. I'm joined now by Paola Ramos, the former campaign aide to Hillary Clinton and host of Vice's Latin X, and Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, professor at the University of Texas. Good to see you both. Paola, what do you think is key here in the new rulings and the exploding population?
More than anything, I think that we need to understand that this is happening constantly, right? What we saw today in Louisiana, what we're seeing in Mississippi, that's happening everywhere, right? This is happening in our backyards. What's important that everyone understands is that after this story, the humanitarian crisis is no longer just a U.S.-Mexico border crisis. It's no longer just a Texas crisis. It's no longer just an Arizona crisis. This is happening everywhere. Every single state in this country has at least 2 facilities where ICE is detaining immigrants. So this isn't just a them crisis, this is our crisis. So this is just something that we have to internalize as we continue to report on these stories.
Professor?
What we're seeing in the South is an explosion of detention forces. Giving a little bit of a background here, Ari, the South has seen the fastest population growth of Latinos in the last decade, growing over 33%. So what we're seeing is the public in the South reacting very negatively to it. This is where we see some of the most strident anti-immigrant rhetoric, anti-immigrant sentiment, and then we see the follow-through of these detention centers. And what is particularly dangerous and what worries me is that even though we see almost as many detention facilities, private detention facilities, as we do in Texas, at least in Texas, we have organizations that have been around for decades that are advocating for the rights of immigrants, for human rights, that have established contacts from Raíces to the Grassroots Leadership Network, and that can help folks. I mean, the need is very great, but we at least have those resources. Where in your Mississippis, your Louisianas, you don't have that. So it is very scary that these folks are essentially in black holes in these places in the Deep South. And we need to figure out a way, how do we get to these folks and give them the human rights protections that they need and are legally entitled to?
Yeah, and Paola, take a listen to Morgan Radford talking to some of these folks. We just mentioned, how do you get to these folks? Well, we're hearing from some of them as you have these larger discussions about what does it even mean. Take a look.
Llegan a este país y supuestamente el país de la libertad.
You came looking for liberty because supposedly this is supposed to be the country of freedom. ¿Qué le diría? If you had a message for your brother, what would it be?
Que estoy luchando por él.
That you're fighting for him.
Y voy a seguir luchando por él hasta que se quede en este país.
And you're going to keep fighting for him until he's able to stay here.
So what we just saw is perfect because it exposes the hypocrisy that we're living. Why? Because she's talking about a Cuban doctor who came to this country seeking asylum, and instead of being in this country, has spent almost 10 months in a detention facility. Now, on paper, that man that woman just described is the perfect immigrant that Donald Trump wants. Why? Because he's a doctor, he's self-sufficient, he's a prominent figure on paper. In reality, he's a black man. He's an Afro-Cuban. And that is why, under this administration, under our watch, he is currently in a black hole, completely forgotten, and can no longer be a doctor. So that is why that image was so important, because that is the perfect hypocrisy of what we're seeing right now. That unless you are white, they do not care about you.
Right, and that there are so many, Victoria, there's so many clues, proofs, evidence of what that is. And it wasn't until this week that you could say, at least formally on paper, that the Trump administration was also doing economic discrimination. I mean, you could allege it. But now you have this rule that's going to be debated in the courts. I'm reading from one of these new lawsuits that basically says it's a totally radical overhaul. It transforms a system that was supposed to promote economic mobility among immigrants and really, frankly, among everyone, into one that advantages immigrants with wealth. How much of a shift is that, and do you think it will survive court challenge?
It is a huge shift, Ari. I am not a legal scholar. I will defer to my colleagues over at the law school for that. But we do know that the bureaucratic administrative rule was put into place about a year and a half ago. There was the review session, the comment section. So they did follow the steps that are necessary for these rule changes. We'll see if it holds up in court. But in terms of political strategy, I mean, this was Machiavellian genius. The Trump administration has been wanting to do away with family-based immigration. They can't get it done through Congress. They can't really get it done through executive order, but they can chip away at family-based immigration with these rule changes. So that is going to have a massive effect. But at the end of the day, it hurts us as a country. It not just hurts us in terms of who we are as a country, what the Statue of Liberty says, but we need these workers. We have a declining birth rate for American whites. Who is going to take care of us? Who is going to take care and pay into Social Security when we're older?
Victoria and Paola, my thanks to both of you. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.